Hey everyone, and welcome. If you're gearing up for your competitive exams, you know that understanding key economic indicators is non-negotiable. And today, we are cracking the code on the latest IIP numbers for September 2025. Think of this as your complete masterclass to help you absolutely nail this topic.
So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to decode what the IIP, India's Industrial Pulse, is all about. Then we'll hit that big headline number for September. After that, we'll dissect the core sectors and then look at things by the type of goods produced. We'll find out who the winners and losers are in the industry. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with the key takeaways you need for your exam. So, let's dive right in. All right, first things first. We have to get to know our main character today, the Index of Industrial Production, or IIP. And trust me, this is way more than just a random number. It's like taking a vital sign of the entire economy. I mean, think about it. How do you possibly measure the health of this giant engine, with thousands of factories, mines, and power plants all humming along at once? How do you get one single number that tells you how they're all doing collectively? Well, the answer is the IIP. Now, let's break this definition down, because it's important. At its heart, the IIP tracks the volume of stuff being produced, not the price, but the actual quantity. It's the closest thing we have to a monthly checkup on the nation's industrial pulse, telling us if things are speeding up or slowing down. For your exams, this is a super foundational concept. And here we go. This is an absolute must-remember fact. Seriously, this pops up in exams all the time. The base year for calculating the IIP is 2011-12. That just means all the production numbers we see today are being compared against the levels from back then. Go ahead and lock this one in your memory. Okay, now that we've got the basics covered, let's get to the main event, the brand new data for September 2025. And here it is, the big one, the single most important number from this whole release. India's industrial production grew by 4.0% in September 2025. That's year on year, so compared to September of last year. If you remember only one number from our chat today, make it this one, 4.0%. So the big question is 4.0% any good? Well, context is everything, right? It's a real step up from the 3.2% growth we saw in the same month last year. So what this tells us is that the industrial sector has definitely picked up some speed, and that's a pretty positive sign for the economy. So, what's behind this pickup in pace? Well, the official press release points us right to the main engine. The manufacturing sector was the real star of the show, so let's dig into that a little deeper. Okay, time to peel back the layers of that 4.0% number. You see, the IIP is made up of three broad sectors, and understanding how each one performed is absolutely critical to getting the full picture. Now, take a look at this. What's so striking here is just how massive the manufacturing sector is. It accounts for more than 77% of the entire index. This is exactly why we often say, as manufacturing goes, so goes the IIP. Its sheer weight means its performance has a huge, outsized impact on that final number. And this chart tells the story perfectly. Manufacturing put in a really healthy 4.8% growth, which pulled the whole index up. Electricity also gave some solid support, growing at 3.1%. But look at mining. It actually shrank a little bit. This is a huge clue that the industrial recovery isn't really happening everywhere all at once. All right, here's a quick hack for your exam prep. How do you remember these three core sectors without any trouble? Just remember the mnemonic MME. Think of it as Measure My Economy. Mining, manufacturing, electricity. Super simple and really effective. So we've looked at which sectors are doing the producing. Now let's switch gears and analyze what kinds of goods are being made. This is what we call the use-based classification. And honestly, it often tells a more fascinating story about what's really happening in the economy. So what exactly is this classification? Well, it's pretty simple. It just groups products based on how they're eventually used. For example, a giant machine that builds cars. That's a capital good. It's an investment. The car itself, that's a consumer durable. Breaking things down this way helps us see if growth is coming from big investments or from everyday shopping. Okay, let's get into these numbers because they are really striking. Infrastructure and construction goods are absolutely booming, up 10.5%. And just look at consumer durables. We're talking cars, phones, fridges, up a massive 10.2%. That tells us people are confident enough to make those big purchases. But then, your eyes drift to the bottom row, and you see consumer non-durables are actually in the red. So here's the key takeaway, the big story here. The data is painting a picture of two different trends happening at the same time. On one hand, you have strong investment activity, with infrastructure and capital goods doing really well. But on the other hand, the demand for daily use items, soaps, snacks, basic toiletries, is actually falling. This split is a really important theme in this month's data.
We already know manufacturing was the hero of the month, so now let's zoom in even closer and find out which specific industries inside that massive sector were the real growth engines.
And here are our champions. The growth in electrical equipment is just staggering, at nearly 29%. That's followed by really strong performances from the motor vehicles industry at 14.6% and basic metals at 12.3%. It's clear that these three industries are doing all the heavy lifting right now.
You know what time it is? Time for another exam mnemonic to make your life easier. To remember the top 3 manufacturing drivers, just think of the word BEM. You can remember it as big economic movers. That's basic metals, electrical equipment, and motor vehicles. BEM. Got it?
But it's important to keep a balanced view here. While those top 3 industries are flying high, that growth isn't happening everywhere. The data actually shows that 10 out of the 23 major manufacturing groups either saw their production fall or just completely stagnate. This really confirms that the recovery is concentrated in just a few specific pockets.
Okay, we have covered a ton of ground. Now let's boil it all down to the absolute essentials, the high-yield points that you need to know. Think of this as your final checklist before the exam.
Let's do a super quick recap. The headline IIP growth for September 2025, 4.0%. The base year you have to remember, 2011-12. Manufacturing, our main driver, grew at 4.8% and has that massive 77.6% weight. Electricity was up 3.1%, while mining was down a little at -0.4%. And those top 3 manufacturing drivers are BEM industries, were electrical equipment, motor vehicles, and basic metals.
And looking at the use-based numbers, the story was all about strong investment, led by infrastructure goods at a whopping 10.5%. Big-ticket buying was also strong, with consumer durables up 10.2%. The key area of concern? That -2.9% drop in consumer non-durables. And finally, don't forget your mnemonics, MME for the sectors and BEM for the top manufacturing drivers. And that brings us to our final thought-provoking question. We're seeing a clear picture of an economy where big investments are happening and people are buying cars and appliances. But at the exact same time, demand for everyday essentials is weak. So what does this split really tell us about the nature of our economic recovery and maybe the financial health of the average household? That's the critical puzzle to think about. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.